Today we're digging into one single, really iconic painting, Rembrandt's Danae.
Yeah, it's quite a story.
It really is. Okay, so let's unpack this because we're not just, looking at a painting on a wall. We're following a thread that goes back millennia, from ancient Greek myth right through to this shocking act of vandalism in, well, relatively modern times, and then this incredible story of restoration.
Absolutely. It ties together art, myth, human resilience, all of it.
So our goal today really is to give you the essentials on Danae, kind of a shortcut, so you're well informed without having to wade through dense academic texts.
Exactly, because this one painting, it connects to such a bigger picture. Myth, Rembrandt's unique vision, and like you said, this incredible story of survival against the odds.
Okay, perfect. So let's start at the beginning, way back. Who was Danae? What's her story in Greek mythology that captivated so many artists, including Rembrandt?
Right. So Danae was a princess, the daughter of King Acrisius of Argos, only child. In Acrisius, he was really disappointed he didn't have a son, an heir.
Ah, the classic tale.
Pretty much. So he goes to the Oracle of Delphi for guidance, and the Oracle gives him this really chilling prophecy.
Oh, what did it say?
It said, basically, no son for you, but your daughter, Danae, she will have a son, and that grandson is destined to kill you.
Oof. Okay, that's heavy news for a king.
Definitely. So Acrisius, understandably, maybe panics. He needs to stop this prophecy.
So what does he do? How do you even try to stop fate?
His solution was drastic. Yeah. He decided to imprison Danae. She was still childless then, remember?
Imprison her?
Well, the sources differ slightly. Some say it was a bronze chamber built underground beneath the palace court. Others describe a tall brass tower. No doors, no windows, just maybe a tiny opening for air.
Wow. So the idea was complete isolation, keep her away from everyone forever.
Exactly. Total lockdown. He figured if she never met anyone, she could never have the son predicted by the oracle.
Right. But Greek myths rarely work out that simply, especially when the gods get involved. And, wasn't Zeus interested in Danae?
Precisely. Human locks, bronze walls.
Yeah.
They don't mean much to the king of the gods. Zeus desired Danae.
So how did he get to her?
This is the famous part. He didn't come as a man or an animal like he often did. He transformed himself into a shower of golden rain.
A shower of gold?
Yeah. Pure gold streaming down, somehow getting through the roof or the vent of her prison right into her womb.
That's quite an image, and this led to her getting pregnant.
It did. This divine encounter resulted in the birth of their son, Perseus, the hero Perseus.
So Acrisius's plan failed spectacularly. The prophecy was back on track. How did he react when Perseus was born? Did he finally accept it?
Not quite. He was still terrified, but also probably scared of angering the gods directly by, killing his daughter and divine grandson.
So another desperate measure.
Yep. He put Danae and the baby Perseus into a wooden chest.
A chest.
The wooden chest, and cast them out into the sea. Hope they just disappear.
Oh my God. That's brutal.
It is.
Yeah.
But again, divine intervention. Poseidon, god of the sea, apparently calmed the waters at Zeus's request. So the chest didn't sink. It eventually washed ashore on the island of Seriphus, and they were saved.
Incredible. And did the prophecy eventually come true? Did Perseus kill Acrisius?
Tragically, yes. Many years later, Perseus was competing in some athletic games in a place called Larissa. He threw a discus, or maybe a javelin, and it accidentally struck an old man in the crowd. That old man turned out to be his grandfather, King Acrisius, who was visiting. Killed him instantly.
Wow. Just like the oracle predicted. An accident, but still fate fulfilled.
Exactly. Now, connecting this back to art, and specifically Rembrandt, there's a detail often seen in paintings of Danae. It's a crying Cupid, sometimes shown with his hands bound.
A bound Cupid. What does that signify?
It became a symbol, really from the Middle Ages onward, of chastity, specifically forced chastity. So in paintings of Danae, this bound Cupid is a direct reference to her imprisonment, her isolation, that forced chastity imposed by her father. It's a really neat symbolic shorthand.
That is fascinating, packing so much narrative into one small detail. Okay, so that's the powerful myth. Now let's shift to Rembrandt. How did this Dutch master take this ancient story and, well, make it his own on canvas? This must be where it gets really interesting.
It really does. So Rembrandt van Rijn finishes his Danae around 1636. But interestingly, he reworked it quite a bit later, around 1643.
Reworked it? Why?
We'll get to that. But first, the basics. It's oil on canvas, very much in the Baroque style, and it's big. Life-sized.
How big are we talking?
About 185 by 203 centimeters. That's roughly, 6 feet by nearly 7 feet? pretty massive.
Huge. Did that make it hard to sell?
Quite possibly. That scale for that subject wasn't typical for private Dutch homes. It suggests maybe it wasn't a commission, but something he kept for himself, something personal.
Okay, so it's big, it's Baroque. But how did Rembrandt's vision differ from, say, Titian's famous paintings of Danae? Others had tackled the myth.
Ah, that's the key point. Rembrandt did something really different. The sources say he moved away from all myth and idealization. He wasn't painting a goddess.
To use painting.
A woman, a real earthly woman. She's depicted as sensual and carnal, a nude, yes, half undressed, but still wearing jewelry, bracelets. It feels tangible, real.
So less divine allegory, more human reality.
Exactly, and that focus on the human, the real, rather than the purely idealized or mythical figure, was pretty rare, almost radical for Dutch art of that size and subject.
Describe the scene for us. What does it actually look like?
Okay, you see Danaë reclining on this plush bed. She's bathed in this incredible golden light, referencing the golden shower, of course. Her skin looks pale, luminous, and her expression, it's often described as ecstasy, maybe astonishment.
And Rembrandt's technique.
Oh, it's masterful. He uses these loose brushstrokes and generous impastos. That's where the paint is applied really thickly, so it stands out, has texture. It creates this amazing atmosphere of intimacy and sensuality, the way the light and shadow play across her body, the sheets. It's incredibly skillful.
It sounds like you really captured the emotion, not just the story beat.
Absolutely. He went way beyond just illustrating the myth. His Danaë feels full of passion, desire, and total surrender. But she's not just seductive, she's also vulnerable and emotionally complex. You see that delight and astonishment, but also sense that she's exposed, unable to escape her destiny. There's a real psychological depth.
Wow. And you mentioned it might have been a personal piece and that he reworked it. Is that connected to the model? I heard something about that.
Yes. This is fascinating and supports the idea it was personal. In the original 1636 version, the model for Danaë was almost certainly Rembrandt's first wife, Saskia. Yes. But then, around 1643, after Saskia had died and he was involved with another woman, Gheertruyd Dircks, he actually repainted Danaë's face to look more like Gheertruyd.
He repainted his wife's face to look like his mistress on this painting.
Seems so. Which strongly suggests it wasn't for a client, right? It was his own deeply personal work evolving with his life.
That adds a whole other layer. And the bound Cupid we talked about earlier, the symbol of forced chastity, is that in Rembrandt's version?
It is. It's there, often depicted near the bedhead, looking rather sorrowful. It reinforces that whole theme of her confinement, the obstacle to her happiness. It shows Rembrandt was definitely thinking about the deeper symbolism.
So it's grounded, human, sensual, but still connected to the myth's core ideas. How does it stack up against, say, Titian's famous Danae?
It's a great comparison. Titian's are also very sensual, maybe more classically idealized. One source notes Rembrandt's treatment of Danae's movement is more natural, more lifelike perhaps, yet the picture's sensuous appeal remains strong. It's just a different kind of sensuality, maybe more intimate, less overtly divine.
Okay, so we have this incredible masterpiece, deeply personal, revolutionary in its way, full of emotion and technical brilliance. It feels almost invincible, but its journey took a horrific turn, didn't it?
It did, a really devastating turn. On June 15th, 1985, while hanging in the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, the painting was attacked.
Attacked how? By whom?
By a man named Bronius Magis. He was a Soviet-Lithuanian national, later deemed insane. He walked up to the painting and threw sulfuric acid on the canvas.
Sulfuric acid? Oh, my God.
And then, as if that wasn't enough, he cut it twice with his knife.
No, that's just sickening. What did the acid do? I can't even imagine.
The damage was immediate, and it was catastrophic. Descriptions say the entire central part of the composition was turned into a mixture of spots, splashes, dripping paint. Just a mess. The worst hits were to Danaë's face, her hair, her right arm, her legs. The acid literally made the paint bubble dissolve, run down the canvas, even damaging the primer underneath.
How much was lost?
They estimated about 27% of the original paint surface was destroyed. Gone. It must have looked utterly hopeless.
27%? I mean, how do you even begin to fix something like that? It sounds impossible. Did they think it was lost forever?
It certainly seemed possible. But amazingly, the Hermitage team acted incredibly fast. The restoration started literally the same day.
The same day? What could they do?
After quick consultations with chemists, the restorers started washing the surface, very carefully, with water. They kept the painting vertical so the acid wouldn't pool and continue reacting. That immediate action was crucial. It stopped the chemical process from doing even more damage.
Quick thinking under immense pressure. But stopping the burn is one thing. Rebuilding. That must have taken ages.
It took 12 years.
12 years.
Yes, from 1985 all the way to 1997. An incredibly complex, painstaking process. It was led by a specialist team from the Hermitage's own restoration lab.
What did that involve? 12 years.
It was layer by layer. First, stabilizing what was left, strengthening the remaining paint in the ground layer. Then they had to remove old backing canvases, apply a new one for support. They regenerated the protective varnish layers. Then came the really micro-level work. For 18 months, specialists worked under microscopes.
Under microscopes?
Yes, meticulously removing the residue left by the acid, carefully thinning and leveling the damaged old varnish, removing previous restoration attempts that were now compromised. Where the paint was totally gone, they had to apply a new primer, carefully matched chalk, pigment, adhesive binder.
Wow. It sounds more like intricate surgery than painting. How did they fill in the missing 27% without just repainting it themselves? Isn't there a risk of losing Rembrandt's original work?
That's the huge ethical challenge in restoration, absolutely. Their approach is very conservative. The documentation says they toned only separate damaged places that broke the overall integrity of the picture.
So only filling the absolute holes, basically.
Essentially, yes. And they used traditional oil painting techniques, just like Rembrandt would have used. But crucially, these new additions were separated from the original paint by a thin layer of varnish.
So future restorers can tell what's original and what's restoration.
Exactly. It preserves the integrity of Rembrandt's work while making the painting visually whole again. It's about respect for the original artist.
That's incredible dedication. Was the restoration considered a success?
Very much so. The head of the Hermitage put it beautifully. He said, "Danaë managed to keep her soul. Mutilated, she is nevertheless alive, radiating her mysterious light."
Keep her soul. That's powerful. So she's back on display now.
Yes, she's back in the Hermitage, but now, understandably, she's protected behind armored glass, a permanent reminder of her vulnerability and her survival.
A survivor. And the man who did it, Bronis Magus. Why? You said he was judged insane, but was there any stated reason?
Well, according to reports and his own statements later, Magus claimed it was a political act. He apparently saw himself as fighting for Lithuania's freedom from the Soviet Union.
He attacked a Rembrandt as a political protest.
He said he sought the image of a martyr, had no regrets, and that his motives were political. It adds this whole other disturbing layer, right? How art can become a target, a symbol tangled up in political conflict. It really highlights the fragility of cultural heritage.
It really does. Art at the intersection of beauty, history, and sometimes, sadly, human conflict and destruction. So that brings our deep dive on Rembrandt's Danae towards its close. What a story. From Greek prophecy and this forbidden divine love to this deeply personal, revolutionary Baroque masterpiece, and then this brutal attack and just unbelievable restoration. It's quite a saga.
It truly is. And it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? What does it actually mean for art to survive something like that?
Yeah.
Does that history, the damage, the healing, does it add another layer of meaning to the painting beyond what Rembrandt even intended?
That's a really interesting question to ponder.
Yeah, maybe think about how this whole story, Danaë's story, reflects not just on the painting itself, but maybe on us, our capacity to create such beauty, but also to destroy it. And then sometimes our ability to heal and preserve it against the odds, something to definitely mull over.